Blunders to Blessings with Kerim, Season 2, Episode 1. Matthew Borg, From Operational Setback to Operational Strength.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the 6th episode of Blunders to Blessings with Kerim. In a world obsessed with success stories, Blunders to Blessing dares to challenge the status quo
Matthew
and
Borg,
shine a
From
spotlight on
Operational
the
Setback
often
to
overlooked journey
Operational
of failure.
Strength.
In this podcast, you'll hear from successful individuals who have faced adversity head on, sharing their biggest blunders and the invaluable wisdom gained from each experience. My notable guest today is no other than Matthew Borg. Welcome, Matthew.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good. For our audience, Matthew Borg is the founder and manager director of Intraffic, established in January of 2016, a business focused on delivering premium vehicle logistics services through custom systems, strategic partnership, and streamlined process. With extensive experience in operations management and CRM from his time at two of Australia's largest vehicle brokers, Matthew specializes in driving efficiency, solving complex registration challenges, and fostering seamless communications across departments. Matthew is guided by the principles: there is never a problem when there is a solution, and above and beyond. He has built a culture of innovation and continuous improvement at Intraffic. Congratulations, Matthew. That is an amazing journey, your business journey, and thank you for being here today with us. Matthew, most cultures and the education system, if you like, view failure as a negative thing, and it becomes almost a stigma for some people. What's your definition of the word failure, and has it changed with time?
Yeah, good question. Failure definitely has changed over time. In my opinion, obviously, dictionary definition is, the lack of success on either process or a system, but more or less, in my opinion, failure to me now means, an opportunity or a lesson to do better. So that's my definition of failure at the moment. But you're right, like it's definitely changed over time. Early days, especially during, I guess, your studies in school and uni, failure sort of comes about when, you're failing a subject or, failing at life at that stage. So in the end of the day, that has a very negative connotation there, like, and there's no real bounce back or, and the world sort of looks at it as if, you failed, that's it, there's no option to move on. So when you hear that word, I guess as a child, it's very different to learning it in current times, like as an adult. So again, in my opinion, at the moment, especially with my experience, failure to me is, okay, what happened? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? It's definitely a lesson.
That's right. And you're right. And as you get older, because I've had, staff that were young and everything was black and white, it was left or right, forward or backwards, right or wrong, failed and passed, right? Because that's how it's structured in our education system. Whereas as you get older and you get a little bit wiser and you get maybe a few gray hairs in your journey, you start to realize that actually the world is 99 shades of gray, and the black and white are actually the two extremes.
Agreed.
Matthew, can you tell me, can you share with us one of your, let's call it failures, but then you went back and you were able to identify some really interesting lessons and gems out of it?
Yeah, okay. I'll probably share one that was very early days of Intraffic, especially when I was one-man band, me, myself, and I. I was really trying to understand the process with registration across every single state and territory in Australia. And we were registering one of the first vehicles we ever done in Victoria. And I assumed a lot, especially during that time. And, the process being similar to New South Wales. And basically, long story short, I organised a vehicle on behalf of a very, of course, VIP customer. And everything was organised, registration documents, the vehicle landed on site, we had it inspected. And to my knowledge, I knew there was an appointment process in place, but I didn't know how it sort of worked in the registration process. So when came to the day we had to register the vehicle, and of course, other things went wrong as well. Paperwork got lost in transit, being original documents required for every single state and territory. I had to actually fly to Victoria that day in the morning so I can get this process done. I was thinking, yeah, register the vehicle, go have some nice lunch in Victoria somewhere, relax a bit, and then catch my flight at the end of the day. It did not turn out that way at all, unfortunately. So I took the vehicle. Once I had the paperwork signed again by the customer advising them that we'll have the car ready. Took the vehicle to go get registered to Vic Roads, and Vic Roads operate with an appointment system where you will have the money to register the car, you have the paperwork to register the vehicle, but you need an appointment at Vic Roads. You can't just rock up and register your car. So, and with those appointments, they book out almost 3 weeks in advance, especially with the metro location. So, I begged and pleaded with the Vic Roads staff and said, "Look, I'm traveling to state. It's a very, very important customer. I didn't understand the rules prior. Please, can you help someone out?" Naturally, God love them, State Road Authority weren't willing to help me despite my situation. So the two options were go to a very distant Vic Roads, probably 2.5 hours away, and it's no guarantee that they'll register it for me, but they're a bit more relaxed. But possibly they'll get it done for me, or I'll call my contacts in Victoria to see if someone can assist. So I decided with option two, thinking that's probably the better one, especially not putting cage on the vehicle. And we managed to get onto a dealership that I didn't know very well, but they were able to assist me in that situation. And keep in mind, this is still around 11 o'clock in Victoria. I get to the dealership with the vehicle, and as you may know, dealerships when selling outside of one's PMA and registering a vehicle that they didn't supply, they're not too happy about it. So naturally, they stuck me around for a bit, roughly around 4 or 5 hours. I was waiting there. You know, me constantly asking the question, guys, is this ready to go? While the customer's just absolutely hounding me for the car, which is fair enough. And in the meantime, I managed to get the car to the customer so he can physically have it, touch it, so it can sort of appease him for the time being while I deal with the registration. So it was maybe right at the end of the day, 5 o'clock. They advised, yep, car's registered, sweet. I get the plates are wrong. It's like, okay, fair enough, because they wanted a specific set of plates. They overcharged me for the rego, but I saw an active set of registration plates. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to deal with it and move on. Uh, Traveling to the customer's location. It's now nighttime in an Uber. I'm just stressed out of my mind. Haven't eaten, drank anything all day. Just wanting to get this out of the way. Get to the customer's location. Customer, as I'm playing the vehicle, customer's just letting it rip, ripping into me. And I could have just only apologized, really. And after it was done, I managed to get into an Uber, go to the airport, and just catch my flight. As I get home, it would have been 11:30 p.m. at that stage, but get to my front door. My wife answers the door, and I just probably break down. Just it was an extremely stressful day. It was nothing that I could have imagined that would go that way, but unfortunately, I just every aspect of that day that was in my control just didn't go my way. Yeah, it was a massive lesson, massive.
And so, I mean, I've already got some takeaways from that. But what's when you got up the next morning, right? And you probably would have hit the pillow and crashed out. And when you got up the next morning, you would have had a sense of relief. Um, but when you reflected back, apart from learning that you've got to book in for a Victorian registration, what else did you learn along the way?
I definitely learnt that preparation is key. So as much as I thought I was prepared, I definitely wasn't as prepared as what I thought I was. And I could have done more research, even though I spent countless hours at that time on the phone to the State Road Authority's help desk to understand. But again, you get different people at each stage. But regardless, yeah, it was definitely something I would definitely say I needed to prepare more for, understand better before I just accept a booking. Definitely it was early days of Intraffic. I was well and truly out of my comfort zone across the board, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Even with New South Wales, you live here, but regardless, if you care about your business, you're going to be, and at the early stages of it especially, you're going to be nervous and hesitant and cautious. But yeah, definitely from that experience, next morning, and again, because I was one man band, I had no time to muck around. I had other cars to register. It was yeah, a sense of relief initially, but hey, how am I not going to make sure that happens again ever? So that was my main concern, and I just immediately started thinking about what processes to put in place. How when I accept a booking, doing more research initially, especially if it's a vehicle I've never processed before. I went into complete preparation mode, just with everything.
I guess the failure in some ways was the assumption, right? That
Correct,
that
massive, yeah,
that was
definitely
the the big thing that you assumed.
massive one for us, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I think from what I'm hearing, and I don't want to go to the big takeaway because this could be the big takeaway, and I'll leave it to the end. But what I also took
Mm.
away was your sheer perseverance, right? That you are looking option one, option two, option three. Do I go 2.5 hours there? Who do I call to help me out? Where do I grovel to get this over the line? The management of the customer expectation that who's on the phone, frustrated, unhappy, but that perseverance to go, I'm getting this done. I'm here. I'm on the ground. I'm going to get this done. Is also something that is quite remarkable because some people they come across these situations and they just don't have the emotional fortitude to manage all those things happening in the one go, and they throw their arms up in the air. So all credit to you for this. So from that, there obviously had to be a pivot in the way you did the business, and I would imagine that from that lesson you would be going, let's find out what happens in South Australia. Let's find out and be sure about what happens in Queensland. Let's find out what happens in WA, Northern Territory, Tasmania. I want to know exactly how all the RTAs work around the country. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. It's there's so many factors, like just the particular vehicle you're registering, a cab chassis, one with a gas unit, caravan. It just completely changes the ball game, which was interesting for me at the time, trying to get understanding that. But yeah, from that one experience, it definitely made me think a lot harder and dedicate the time to understand the process regardless. Even if we weren't even processing that type of vehicle, I'd still ask the question, what if it was this? What if it was that? 9 times out of 10, you get a helpful person over the phone that is knowledgeable and won't just give you an answer just so you can go away. So, but it's that you'd usually get someone that's helpful. So it was very informative. Don't get me wrong, you'd have a massive headache at the end of the day trying to, you know, absorb this information that's, so different in every single state, but it definitely helped me along the way.
Yeah. And now like, obviously, I want to declare that Matthew and Intraffic is one of my clients. But when I look at your business now, it seems such a well-oiled, well-processed, operations running extremely well, all talking to each other. And so without these gems that you learned from, the very first job, do you think you would have been as successful as you are now, Matt?
No, I'm actually grateful for not just that specific mess up. There was, definitely a few more,
Mm.
along the way. But yeah, I'm definitely grateful for him. I think, it's definitely made me the person I am today. Again, it makes it, forces you to ask the right questions. It forces you to be cautious. It's as much as I'm remaining optimistic and persistent, regardless, you got to take what the issues or the failures that has happened in the past and use that to your advantage as you progress in life. But yeah, definitely helped me become the person I am today.
And so, Matt, on that, the environment is constantly changing. Are you constantly pivoting and learning from things? How from small, maybe in those days it might have been bigger failings. Now it's smaller failings, but the combination of all these smaller failings are creating smaller gems. So it's that tweaking constantly. Are you still in that phase where there's still tweaking going on?
Oh, definitely, 100%. To be honest, it'd be silly to say that there would be constant tweaking throughout the process. It'll never stop. Like you'll, whether it's, staffing or, not just registration process, but, things change all the time, especially in our space. So, especially like now, for example, the EV market coming into light, that's a massive learning curve. The state governments have no idea which direction they're going with EV. So for us, it's like, well, we constantly have to pivot. We constantly have to be on top of the information so we can be knowledgeable for our customers. So I don't think that'll ever stop personally.
And so how do you get your lessons, your life lessons, your experiences, your wisdom that you've accumulated over the years from these, and I always hate using that word, these failings, because the perception of the word failure sounds terrible, but you've
Mm.
taken out all these gems, all these lessons, all these wisdom. How do you transcend that to your team?
Well, you use it as an example, Grim. Like, regardless, especially with our team, we're extremely transparent. Like, whenever the business moves forward or backward, we always keep the team informed. So, it helps them grow as individuals, as a team. So we inform them, hey, guys, by the way, this happened. This is why it happened, and this is the change we've made to the system or the process, so that it doesn't happen again. But just for your knowledge, this is why it happened. So, moving forward, if an opportunity comes past and it's going to have the same failure as you say, 99% chance it's not going to happen again because we've put in a process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Thank you, Matt. I was just going to say, because you are a well-oiled machine now and you're moving, remind me how many cars now you're moving a month?
Oh, it's on average around 700 to 750 cars per month.
Even the very idea of having to move that many cars and the logistics that's required behind that is mind-blowing.
It keeps it fun, Kareem. Don't worry about that.
I'm sure it does. So as we come to kind of the end of our little podcast, as the founder of One Point, we're diving into a more fun and fast-paced segment called the Point questions. So Matt, I'll be asking you to respond, just preferably one word or one line, so as to keep it quick and insightful.
Hmm.
What's
Hmm.
one habit that you're trying to quit?
Habit I'm trying to quit. I would say not letting go. It's probably one habit that I'm trying to quit. Holding on to either an issue, a problem, or work itself, tasks that I don't need to do technically, but just yeah, not letting go is probably something I'm definitely looking to drop.
Yeah. So you mean more delegation?
Oh, not just delegation, but like for example, I'm pretty much available to my customers 24/7 at the moment. I have been since the start of the business. So if I see a notification at 10 p.m., technically they can wait till tomorrow morning, but I tend to jump on it. So I put that in the same bucket as not letting go. So,
Yeah.
it's like just let go. It's all good. Wait till tomorrow morning. You'll take care of it. But yeah, it's especially with a young family now. It's I've got to learn to do that, and the staff will take care of it anyway. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's one thing I'm still trying to drop. I'm still operating as if I'm one man.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, in some ways, that's I read somewhere where you should treat your business as if it's a startup all the time, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Agreed.
and that's the entrepreneur in you, and again, in some ways, that's a little bit the fear as well. Not letting go, there's a little bit of fear there, definitely. But I remember being in your shoes as well. I used to work 6 days a week until I had my kids, and then my wife would say, "Man, you got to cut it back. You got to be at home on the weekends."
Yeah,
And
agreed.
and I cut back to five days a week, and that was difficult because I've been doing 6 days since I left school. And when you got
Yeah.
when you got your own business, you're really on 7 days a week. At least maybe you're not there physically, but you're there. Your mind's there. Your thoughts are there.
Oh, you're there mentally for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
never leaves you, right? Um,
No.
what is the one inspirational quote that you're kind of like this I really like this. I'm a little bit obsessed with this idea, this quote that it sort of sticks with you.
Good one. I think Richard Branson said it. Don't quote me, but I think he said, "Take care of your team, and they'll take care of your customers." I think that's absolutely rings true, and it's just yeah, really helped me, especially when I started to build up a team. That really stuck with me from when I heard that.
Yeah, yeah, I like that one as well. It's one of my favorite. I remember I used to have one when I was much younger that was the minute you say you can't do something, you had to do it, right? Because otherwise, the minute you accepted that you couldn't do something, it was a limitation. And I always thought that my world and my bubble would get smaller if I walked away from something that I said I couldn't do. So I used to always be very
Yeah.
conscious of be careful what I say, because then I'd have to
Yeah.
live up to it. What's one word that is not in in Matthew's dictionary?
Uh, Probably cliche, but I'll have to say quitting, just because at the end of the day, you got to see whatever you're currently doing to its fruition. You got to, if it's a task you don't want to do, just do it. If it's a course you don't want to do, just finish it. Never leave anything undone. Just quitting is probably the word that is probably not in my dictionary.
And that's an interesting word because I see that as the failure. Like if you're trying something and you don't get it right, and you try again and you don't get it right, and you don't, and you keep on trying, so long as you're trying, you're never failing, right? It's only when you quit that
Agreed.
you failed. So,
Definitely agree.
um, well, thanks for that, Matt. Before we say goodbye, what is the one advice that you'd like to share with the audience, especially someone who's struggling to overcome a setback and move forward, and where the economic environment, one could say, is relatively tough at the moment in Australia, right?
Mm, mm.
Um, with all the economic forces, whether it's the interest rates or whether it's the inflation, whether it's hard to find staff, or well, now we've got all the tariffs that are coming in. What would be the one thing that you would share with someone who's going through a difficult time?
Yeah, that's fair. Good question. So, look, I mean, again, probably based on the term failure as well, it probably rings true there. But I'd have to say, shit happens, Grim. Like at the end of the day, just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and figure it out. There's always gonna be problems. Life isn't fair. Um, like you said, with all these tariffs and inflation and cost of living going up, that's not going to change. So, just you got to be able to try your best to work it out, one way or another. So, whether it's again within business, personal life, education, it's the same concept throughout. Like just power through, be persistent. If there's one thing I've learned doing what I've done throughout my life, starting a business, it's persistence is, everything's going to come at you at all times. So as long as you remain persistent, maintain drive, you'll succeed. And like you said, that key word, don't quit. Uh, that's when you truly fail. So just keep going, and you'll get through it. And if all that hard work, will most likely lead to success.
That's right, and I think often when I do these podcasts, I write that big takeaway for myself, and I think that's the big takeaway is that first of all, often when you're in business, particularly if you're a one-man band or you're a small business, you think that you're the only one who's failing out there, whereas the reality is everybody's facing the same problems pretty much that you'll be facing. You're not alone, and because that's when you start to think about maybe you're incompetent or you're incapable of succeeding, and there's a real lonely thing about being a small business entrepreneur, and that's why I guess over time they've built so many business chambers of commerce where people can come together and people can feel like, okay, I'm not the only one who's going through this challenge, and therefore you feel like you're on this journey with others as well. I think that's the important thing, but that perseverance straight away from the get-go, when you shared that story that you had to fly down to Melbourne, and you're looking at every avenue to try and get to an outcome is really important. And as we both said, the only failure in life is when you quit. So, and I think that's the big takeaway as well for myself, and I hope that the audience can take something away from this and acknowledge the fact that perseverance is going to be important. And I think this thing about lifelong learning and as you did, you constantly improving the operations and the processes within your business as you pivot and tweak, as you learn and as you get your setbacks, that it's not a destination, right? The perfect business is not a destination. It's an ever going process. And it never stops, as you quite rightly said. So, and on that, Matt, again, I know that you're on annual leave, so thank you so much for taking time out. I would like to thank our listeners for listening, from Blunders to Blessings with Kerim. Please subscribe, share, and leave your comments. Love to hear your thoughts. Matt, again, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your annual leave.
Thanks, Kerim. Thanks for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Blunders to Blessings with Kerim. For more podcast, visit us at www.blunderstoblessings.1pt.com.au.